Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight, the DNA outlines plans for government as the party closes out its first national convention. Residents brace for Hurricane Matthew. The F&M chairman calls the Bahamar deal mysterious. And Team Bahamas gears up for the Youth Commonwealth Games. Welcome to our news. I'm Tyler Joaquin. Thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight, outlining his party's plans to overhaul the Bahamas from what he described as being on the verge of collapse. Newly re-elected leader Bramble McCartney rallied the Democratic National Alliance's base last night as the two-day national convention came to a close.
You have the power to make life easier for your little boy, your little girl, all children on the Bahamas, and their children, and their children's children. You have the power to restore faith in your leadership. You have the power to realign our nation the way God destined it to be. You, and only you have the power on who wins and who loses.
Calling for an overhaul of the country's immigration policies, education system, and economic investment model, McCartney said Bahamians, particularly the young ones, must now more than ever reclaim a sense of power for themselves.
They're becoming quickly the haves and the have-nots. In particular, young Bahamians and Bahamian entrepreneurs have become so disillusioned, deflated, and depressed that those who can are not returning to the Bahamas or seeking to leave because they see no future for themselves in the land in which they were born.
The DNA leader said the ball to where we go as a nation is in the people's court. As a part of its plan to reform governance in the Bahamas, McCartney said, as a government, the DNA will first pass substantive freedom of information legislation. He also revealed his plan to stamp out corruption, particularly when it comes to politicians.
Any politician who finds his hand or her hand in a cookie jar will be prosecuted. Period. Too much of this foolishness going on.
As a government, McCartney has plans for prime ministers to only serve a maximum of 2 terms, established constituencies, and a fixed date for general elections. And as for the party's plans to deal with crime,
and yes, we will enforce the death penalty and make the law reflect that if you commit murder against anyone, not just a selected few, that you will be sentenced to death. There'll be no bail for murderers. None. We will let the commissioner and his force carry out their duties without political interference.
The party's deputy leader, Chris Mortimer, also blasting successive governments for their handling of Crown land.
We have as a country about 2.5 million acres of Crown land, 900,000 of which is wetlands, leaving about 1.8-ish million acres of Crown land. What I want to say to you tonight, DNAs and Bahamas, the DNA is going to take that Crown land and we are going to make it available to you.
But Mortimer encouraged their supporters to be prepared for the naysayers.
They will try to convince you that our ideas are too grandiose, too impossible to achieve, too expensive, and but when they do that, this is what I want you to do. I want you to look them straight in the eye and say to them, sit small.
But the convention also included a long list of other speakers, including younger members and candidates. Navarre Smith, the youngest candidate on the DNA ticket, hoping to secure the seat of Marco City, said he joined the party because it seems to be serious about empowering the young people of the nation.
My youth has never been seen as an impediment. Instead, this party examined my character and my commitment. They looked at my commitment to serve, which I had been doing long before I entered frontline politics. The leaders of the DNA saw the potential in me and offered me an opportunity to help bring that same greatness out of as many other young people around this country as I possibly can.
He said every election cycle, young people are paraded on stage and promised all kinds of things by major parties, only to be left disappointed years after the election.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've lived in Freeport my entire life. Even after leaving to pursue my education, I was adamant about returning back home against the advice of my parents. As a young man, I have had to live through the same challenges in Freeport like many of you for the last several years. I too have struggled with unemployment and underemployment. And while it would have been easier for me to move to another island and take advantage of the career opportunities that exist elsewhere, I made a deliberate decision to stay the course at home on Grand Bahama through the tough times. I took my blows. I took my blows in Grand Bahama because I believed in my home island. I wanted to do everything within my power to make things better, not only for myself, but for everyone that calls Grand Bahama home.
Stressing the need for more focus on culture, the party's candidate for Marathon, Emily Williams, took the government to task.
This can be long, because this is Marathon's very own Mrs. Emily Williams.
Let's take reggae. Let's talk about Bob Marley and Jamaica. Bahamian artists, including former secular artists like myself, have worked tirelessly to make rake and scrape, gumbe and Jonkano music equally recognizable to the masses. The world is waiting. The world is watching. So we must act, and act quickly to preserve what is ours. Do you agree? DNAs, do you agree?
Well, all eyes are currently on Hurricane Matthew, the powerful storm that within 36 hours went from being a minimal hurricane to a Category 5 monster. Now a Category 3 hurricane, the storm has its eyes set on Jamaica and Cuba. And with a projected path to hit the Bahamas by Tuesday of next week, officials at the National Emergency Management Agency are taking no chances, and they're encouraging Bahamians to do the same.
I'd like to encourage you, let us dub this weekend Hurricane Matthew Preparedness Weekend. And persons, while you have some downtime on the weekend, move around your home. See how you can prepare your home and your properties for the approach of this storm as it comes into the Bahamian territorial waters during the course of next week.
Matthew has already caused one death. A teen was crushed by a boulder in St. Vincent on Wednesday as he tried to clear a drain during the storm. Bradley King of the Ministry of Works encourages people to contact their department for issues as such.
We secure government buildings in the event of hurricane threat. We responsible for the physical damage assessment, along with our partners, social service, who do the other aspect of it. And we're also responsible for storm drainage and road clearance. Those each teams have been alerted, and we are meeting, preparing to take each of those responsibilities. And as usual, we expect that we would be in a position to address any situation that arise. And of course, we look to cooperate with the public, with our partner agencies. We know these are some very important areas to the public.
Residents of the entire archipelago are being encouraged to stock up on those non-perishable items, water, medication, and if necessary, seek out your nearest shelter.
Persons who will be coming to the shelter, we also ask them to make sure that bring at least 3 to 4 days of supply of medication. Also, small food supply with preferably canned goods, because as a result that we wouldn't have the necessary utensils to cook those food, so we might only have a limited cooking space for that to happen.
Bahamian students studying in Jamaica are reportedly being flown back home by the government via Bahamas Air tonight. Again, based on the current projected path, residents of the central and southeast Bahamas should begin feeling the effects of the storm sometime Tuesday morning. When our news returns, the F&M chairman questions that secret Bahama deal. Stay with us.